What if I told you that the thing keeping your energy bills sky high is not the economy, not your utility company, not even inflation? It's the fact that nobody ever showed you this. Right now, millions of people are throwing away used cooking oil, old motor oil, waste oil from their cars and machines, just dumping it, paying to dispose of it, while a small group of people figured out how to turn that exact same trash into free heat, free hot water, and free cooked meals. Every single day. For almost nothing. And the gap between those two groups of people is not money, not land, not education. It's one build, one afternoon, one stove. That stove is what this video is about. And I need you to stay with me because what you're going to see by the end of this is going to completely change how you think about energy, waste, and money. Now, before we go any further, if you're new here, this channel is called Boring Economic Update. And I know what you're thinking. Boring Economic Update? What does a DIY stove have to do with economics? Everything. It has everything to do with economics, because the most powerful economic decision you can make is not which stock to buy or which crypto to hold. It's cutting your dependency on systems that charge you every single month just to stay warm and fed. That's real economics. That's the kind of update that actually changes your life. So if that sounds useful to you, hit subscribe right now. There's more coming, and you don't want to miss it. All right, let's talk about what you're actually looking at here. Picture a metal cylinder, solid, compact, simple. Wrapped around the outside of it is a coil of copper tubing, tight, clean loops, almost beautiful in the way they spiral from the bottom all the way up to the top. At the base of this thing, there's a small inlet. That's where the oil goes in. Used motor oil, old cooking oil, the stuff you'd normally pour into a container and drive to a disposal center, or just leave sitting in your garage for months because you don't know what to do with it. That oil feeds into the stove, travels up through a controlled burn chamber, and comes out the top as a clean, steady, powerful blue flame. A blue flame. Not orange, not smoky, not the messy yellow flame you'd expect from burning oil. Blue. That's the sign of a complete, efficient burn. And that flame is hot enough to cook a full meal, heat a room, and if you run water through that copper coil, heat your water too. 3 functions. 1 fire, 0 fuel cost. Now I want you to stop for a second and think about what that actually means in real numbers. The average American household spends somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 a year just on heating. That's not electricity for lights or power for appliances. That's just heating the space you live in. Then add your cooking energy on top of that. Then add your water heating, which for most homes is one of the biggest single energy expenses in the whole house. You're looking at thousands of dollars a year, every year, going to energy companies. And here's the part that makes it worse. Those costs go up. They went up last year. They went up the year before that. And they will keep going up because that's how the system works. This stove doesn't care about any of that. The oil that powers it, in most places, you can get it for free. Auto shops, restaurants, farms, factories, they generate waste oil constantly, and many of them are desperate to get rid of it. Some shops will actually pay you to take it off their hands, or at the very least let you haul it away at 0 cost. So you're not just cutting your energy bill, you're using something that was already going to be thrown away. You're not burning a resource, you're rescuing one. And that copper coil you see wrapped around the outside of the stove, that's not just decoration. That coil is the water heating system. When you run a pipe of cold water through that tightly wound copper tubing, the heat radiating off the burn chamber transfers directly into the water. By the time that water exits the other end of the coil, it's hot, genuinely hot. Hot enough to use for washing, bathing, cleaning, whatever you need. No electric water heater, no gas line, no monthly bill attached to it. This is the part that most people can't quite believe when they first see it, because we've been so conditioned to think of energy as something you buy, something that comes through a pipe or a wire that somebody else controls and somebody else charges you for. The idea that you could build a device in your garage with materials you can find at a hardware store that handles 3 of your biggest monthly expenses at once, it sounds too simple. It sounds like something that shouldn't work, but it does work. And the reason it works comes down to a principle that's been around for a long, long time. Oil burns, that's not a new discovery. Humans have been burning oil for heat and light for thousands of years. What changed, what always changes, is the design, the efficiency, the cleverness of how you capture and direct that heat so that instead of losing most of it to the air, you're putting almost all of it to work. The copper coil design you're looking at right now is not a random choice. Copper is one of the best heat conductors on Earth. When heat hits copper, it moves through it fast and efficiently, so wrapping copper tubing around a hot burn chamber and running water through it is basically the simplest, most effective heat exchanger you can build without any specialized equipment. The people who figured this out weren't engineers with fancy degrees. They were people who were tired of paying bills they couldn't control, homesteaders, off-grid builders, tinkerers who looked at a can of old motor oil and a roll of copper pipe and asked a simple question, what if? Now let's talk about how this thing actually gets built, because that's the part most videos skip over. They show you the finished product, they show you the flame, they show you the hot water coming out of the coil, and then they cut away. And you're left sitting there thinking, okay, but how? What materials? What steps? What do I actually do on a Saturday morning to make this happen? That's what we're going to cover right now, and I want you to pay close attention because the simplicity of this is going to surprise you. The core of this stove is a metal cylinder. Most people use a thick steel pipe or a repurposed metal container, something with walls strong enough to handle sustained heat without warping or cracking. The diameter doesn't need to be large. We're talking something you could comfortably carry with one hand. The height is typically somewhere between 12 and 18 inches, enough to create a proper burn chamber inside without making the whole unit awkward to move or position. You want something solid, something that's going to sit stable on a flat surface and not tip over when it's running. Inside that cylinder is where the magic actually happens, and this is the part most people don't think about. A waste oil stove doesn't work the same way a wood stove or a gas burner works. You can't just pour oil into a container, light a match, and expect a clean, efficient flame. Oil needs to be vaporized before it burns cleanly. That means the stove needs a preheating phase, and it needs airflow designed specifically to turn liquid oil into burnable vapor before it hits the flame. The interior of the burn chamber is set up to do exactly that. Oil drips in slowly from the inlet at the base, hits the hot surface of the chamber floor, vaporizes almost instantly, and that vapor rises and burns. The result is that clean blue flame you saw in the thumbnail. Controlled, steady, efficient. The inlet itself is simple. A small pipe or tube that connects the external oil supply to the inside of the burn chamber. Some builds use a gravity-fed system where a tank or container sits slightly above the stove and oil drips down through a valve you can open or close to control the flow rate. More flow means bigger flame means more heat. Less flow means a smaller, more economical burn. You're in control of it. That variable control is actually one of the things that makes this stove so practical for everyday use. You're not locked into one heat setting. You can dial it up when you need to heat a room fast and dial it back when you just need a low simmer to cook something slowly. Now let's talk about that copper coil, because this component is the one that takes this build from interesting to genuinely remarkable. Copper tubing is widely available at any hardware store, and it's not expensive. The coil is formed by bending the tubing into tight loops around a cylindrical form. You can use the metal cylinder itself as the mold, and the result is a neat, tight spiral that wraps snugly around the outside of the burn chamber. The number of loops determines how much water contact you get with the heat surface. More loops means more heat transfer, means hotter output water. Most practical builds use somewhere between 6 and 12 loops, depending on the diameter of the tubing and the size of the cylinder. Water enters the coil from the bottom loop, cold. As it travels upward through each successive loop, it absorbs heat radiating off the burn chamber walls. By the time it exits at the top, it has picked up a significant amount of that heat energy. The output temperature depends on how fast the water is flowing and how hot the stove is burning, but in a well-built system running at a steady burn, you can get water hot enough for practical household use without any additional energy input whatsoever, just the heat that's already being produced by the fire you're already burning for heat and cooking. This is the concept of heat recovery, and it's one of the most underused ideas in home energy management. Every heating system produces more heat than it captures. A fireplace sends most of its heat straight up the chimney. A campfire radiates heat in every direction, and most of it disappears into the air. Even modern furnaces lose a percentage of their heat through exhaust. This stove is designed from the ground up to capture as much of that heat as possible and put it to work in multiple ways simultaneously. Instead of one job, it's doing 3, and it's doing all 3 on fuel that cost you nothing. The outer body of the stove, that cylinder with the coil wrapped around it, also acts as a radiant heater for the room. The metal gets hot, and that heat radiates outward in all directions. If you're in a workshop, a garage, a small cabin, a van, a shipping container conversion, or even a small room in your house, this stove will warm that space. People who've built these report being genuinely surprised by how effective the heating is. A relatively small unit running on a moderate burn can make a significant difference in room temperature within a short time. And because you're controlling the burn rate, you can maintain a comfortable temperature without constantly tending to it. Now here's something important that doesn't get talked about enough when people share these builds online: ventilation. Any combustion device produces exhaust, and waste oil combustion is no exception. You need a flue or exhaust pipe that takes combustion gases out of your living or working space. This is not optional. This is not a detail you skip. A properly built waste oil stove with a proper exhaust setup is safe and practical. A poorly ventilated setup is not. So when you build this, and I genuinely hope you do, treat the exhaust system with the same seriousness you treat everything else. Run a flue pipe through a wall or a roof. Keep your space ventilated. Use a carbon monoxide detector. These are not complicated steps. They're just the responsible ones. With that covered, let's talk about where people actually source their waste oil, because this is the question that comes up every single time someone sees a build like this. The answer is simpler than most people expect. Auto repair shops change oil constantly. Every oil change produces used motor oil that the shop has to store and eventually pay someone to come and remove. Many shops are genuinely happy to let you take it. Some might charge a small amount, but many won't. Restaurants are another source. Used cooking oil, particularly from fryers, burns well and is often available for free or very cheaply from restaurants that would otherwise pay for grease disposal. Farms generate machinery oil. Industrial facilities generate all kinds of waste oil streams. Once you start looking, you'll find that waste oil is one of the most available free resources in almost any community. The point is that this fuel supply is decentralized. It doesn't come from one company, one pipeline, one grid. It comes from your local community, from the everyday activity of people around you. And that decentralization is exactly what makes this system resilient. When energy prices go up, and they will go up, this stove doesn't notice. When supply chains get disrupted, and they do get disrupted, this stove keeps running, because the fuel is already there, already produced, already waiting to be used by someone smart enough to use it. And that brings us to the bigger picture of what this build actually represents, because it's about more than a stove. It's about a mindset shift. It's about looking at the systems around you and asking whether you really need to depend on all of them as completely as you currently do. Most people never ask that question. They just pay the bill every month, absorb the price increases, and assume that's just how things are. But a growing number of people are asking that question, and they're finding that the answers are surprisingly practical, surprisingly affordable, and surprisingly satisfying. Let's take a step back for a moment and look at the full picture of what you've just learned, because I want it to really land. You started this video probably thinking this was going to be a cool DIY project, maybe something interesting to watch, maybe something to bookmark and come back to later. But what this actually is, what this stove actually represents, is a concrete, buildable, real-world answer to one of the most consistent financial pressures that ordinary people face every single year. Energy costs money. It always has. But for the first time in a long time, the tools and the knowledge to seriously reduce that cost are accessible to almost anyone willing to spend a weekend and a small amount of money on materials. Think about what this stove does one more time. It heats your space, it cooks your food, it heats your water, 3 separate utility functions that most households pay for separately through separate systems on separate monthly bills. And this single device, built from a metal cylinder, some copper tubing, a few fittings, and a gravity-fed oil inlet, handles all 3 of them on fuel that in most communities you can collect for free. That's not a small thing. That's a fundamental restructuring of how much you depend on external energy systems to meet your basic daily needs. Now, I want to talk about the people who actually build these, because they're not a specific type of person. That's the part that surprises most people when they look into this community. You might assume it's only off-grid homesteaders or hardcore survivalists. And yes, plenty of those folks build waste oil stoves. But you also find mechanics who got tired of paying high heating bills in their shops. You find retired people on fixed incomes who needed a real solution to rising utility costs. You find young people living in converted vans or tiny houses who needed a compact, efficient heat and cooking solution that didn't require hooking up to any grid. You find farmers heating barns and outbuildings. You find small business owners cutting operating costs. The thread connecting all of them is not ideology or lifestyle, it's practicality. This thing works, it saves money, and once it's built, it keeps working for years. And the cost to build it is genuinely low. That's the part that always needs to be said clearly, because people assume something this useful must be expensive to put together. It's not. The materials, the steel cylinder or pipe, the copper tubing, the fittings, the inlet valve, the flue pipe, can typically be sourced for well under a couple $100 depending on where you live and whether you can source any of it secondhand. Many builders spend significantly less by repurposing materials they already have or find cheaply at salvage yards and scrap metal dealers. Compare that upfront cost to what you're currently spending annually on heating, cooking, and water heating combined, and the math becomes very obvious very quickly. This is one of those rare situations where the return on investment is not theoretical or projected. It's immediate and measurable from the first month you stop paying those bills. Let's also talk about longevity, because a tool that saves you money but breaks down constantly isn't actually saving you anything. A well-built waste oil stove made from quality steel with proper welds and fittings will last for many years with basic maintenance. There are no complex electronic components to fail. No circuit boards, no thermostats, no sensors, no software updates. It's metal, fire, and physics. The maintenance is simple. Keep the burn chamber clean, check your fittings periodically, make sure your flue stays clear. That's it. The simplicity of the design is directly related to its reliability. And that reliability is part of why people who build these almost always end up building a second one, a better one, a bigger one. Once you understand how it works, you start seeing applications everywhere. Some people run one in their garage workshop as a primary heat source through winter. Others build a slightly larger version to heat a greenhouse year-round, extending their growing season significantly and reducing the cost of food production at home. Others integrate the hot water output into a small radiant floor heating loop, running the hot water through pipes under the floor so the whole room heats evenly from below. These aren't exotic modifications. They're logical extensions of the same basic principle, and the people doing them are not professional engineers. They're everyday people who learned the fundamentals, built the basic version first, and then started asking what else was possible. That question, what else is possible, is really at the heart of everything this channel is about, because economic resilience is not built by making more money alone. It's built by reducing your exposure to costs you can't control. Every dollar you stop spending on energy is a dollar that stays in your pocket permanently, not just this month, but every month after that. And unlike a pay raise or an investment return, a reduction in your fixed costs doesn't require ongoing conditions to stay favorable. Once the stove is built and the fuel supply is established, the savings are simply there, quietly, consistently, every single day. There's something else worth saying here, and it's a little less practical, but I think it's important. There is a genuine satisfaction in building something that works, in solving a real problem with your own hands, your own time, your own thinking. Most of us spend our days interacting with systems and products and services that other people built that we have no control over and no real understanding of. The utility company sets the price. The gas company sets the price. We pay it because we have to, because we need heat and hot water and a way to cook. This stove breaks that dynamic in a way that's hard to fully describe until you've experienced it. When you light that stove for the first time and feel the heat coming off the copper coil and watch the blue flame burning on fuel you got for free, there's a feeling that goes beyond the money saved. It's the feeling of competence, of independence, of having solved something real. And that feeling, once you have it, tends to spread. People who build one thing like this start looking at other dependencies and asking the same question: what else am I paying for that I could be producing myself? What else am I dependent on that I don't need to be? It starts a process of thinking that compounds over time, and the people who go through that process consistently end up in a fundamentally better financial position than those who don't, not because they got lucky or found some secret investment, but because they simply stopped hemorrhaging money through expenses they never questioned. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, if this video gave you something real, something you can actually use, share it. Send it to someone you know who complains about energy bills every winter. Send it to that friend who's always talking about wanting to be more self-sufficient but doesn't know where to start. Send it to your family group chat. This is the kind of information that genuinely changes things for people, but only if they see it. The algorithm doesn't always put the right videos in front of the right people, but you can. And if you want to talk about this, if you've built a waste oil stove, if you're planning to, if you have questions about the build, if you've tried something similar and want to share what you learned, drop it in the comments below. This community grows when people share real experience and real knowledge, and every comment you leave adds something that the next person who finds this video will benefit from. So talk to us, tell us where you are in the process, tell us what you've tried, tell us what you want to see next, and subscribe if you haven't already, because this channel is going to keep bringing you exactly this real, practical, economics-driven content that actually moves the needle on your financial life. Not theory, not abstract advice, builds, systems, ideas, and analyses that you can act on. That's the boring economic update, and honestly, it's anything but boring.